An AEW star suffers an injury during last night's television tapings, plus Samoa Joe makes his AEW in-ring debut on Dynamite last night. More names have advanced in the Owen Hart Cup tournament for both the male and female tournaments. We have an update when it comes to the next World Championship defense for Hangman Adam Page and the next defense for the AEW Women's World Championship. All this and more in today's AEW news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into today. So let's start off talking, unfortunately, about some injury news. And it looks like legit Layla Hirsch has suffered I hope it's not serious, but certainly has suffered an injury during last night's Dark Elevation tapings, rather. Now, Layla Hirsch suffered an injury during last night's AEW Dark Elevation tapings in Boston. Now, Hirsch was wrestling Christina Marie when her knee buckled as she was landing a backflip or a moonsault out of the corner from the second rope. She immediately went down and clutched her knee. Now, Hirsch was briefly checked out by the referee, who then threw up the dreaded X symbol to call for help. The ringside medic came into the ring to tend to Hirsch and the match was called. Now, another correspondent in attendance noted how it looked as if Hirsch blew her knee out on the landing. The injury occurred during the first match of the pre-Dynamite Elevation tapings, and it wasn't even that long into the match. It was about 1 minute into the match itself. Now, a lot of correspondents on social media commented how it looked to be quite a bad injury, but the severity has not been confirmed as of the recording right now. Hirsch was helped away from the ring by the referee and the ringside medic and is currently, and I guess was being evaluated backstage. Again, as of right now, we don't really have an update onto the severity of it. It sucks when anyone gets injured. I mean, as far as will it make air on Monday? You know what, I probably doubt it. Thinking about it, I doubt it probably will. I mean, if it was the opening match of the night, if it was about a minute in, it might just not be worth keeping in. It's a tape show. I don't really see what purpose it serves to show the injury on television, even though it's not like a gruesome injury or anything like that. But a minute in to show the injury then getting called, I don't really see the purpose of it, but it sucks. She's been featured a bit on television recently. She's been having a feud with Red Velvet. Chris Statlander recently turned heel. So again, we don't really know the severity of the injury. Once we get more details on the severity of the injury, we'll talk about it here on the channel, of course. But thoughts go out to Layla Hirsch, and hopefully it's not as serious as some fear. But you know, when that X symbol goes up, and certainly the match gets called as well, then it is pretty severe. I mean, the X symbol obviously it always signals their injury, but sometimes the match can continue afterwards. Sometimes people do get checked on and then the match carries on, or the fact that they've called it early on goes to show that probably is quite serious. So again, once we get an update on that, we'll speak about it here on the channel. Of course, last night was Dynamite on TBS, and it did feature the AEW in-ring debut of one Samoa Joe. Last night's episode of AEW Dynamite saw the official in-ring debut of longtime veteran Samoa Joe competing in the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament against Max Caster. Now, Joe pulled out the victory in his first All Elite Wrestling bouts, hitting his signature Muscle Buster to get the pinfall victory on Caster. Of course, that's the first time we've seen the Muscle Buster. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I might be wrong here, but I think it's the first time we've seen the Muscle Buster since Tyson Kidd's horrific injury that ended his pro wrestling career. After that injury, it was mandated that that could no longer be used because of the injury suffered to Tyson Kidd, and not necessarily because it's a dangerous move. It was just a freak accident. You know, some people may have been hurt by the Muscle Buster, but frankly, every move is dangerous. That's the reality. But obviously, some moves are more dangerous than others. But the Muscle Buster, especially how Joe hits it nowadays, you know, back in the earlier days of his career in Ring of Honor and certainly Impact Wrestling, he would be much tighter and he would drop people sort of not on their neck, but certainly on the upper part, shall we say, of their back. Nowadays, and as you saw last night on Max Caster, he did the Muscle Buster, but he dropped them very, very flat. It kind of is more of a sort of I guess, of a suplex as opposed to the traditional Muscle Buster. But he got the victory, and it was great to see the Muscle Buster back out once again. Now, before the match got underway, Max Caster made his entrance with teammate Anthony Bowens and poked fun at Samoa Joe throughout his rap. It was one of his better ones. I mean, Max Caster's raps are what they are, and they're always very enjoyable. But I did think it was one of his better ones. He pointed out how Joe was injury-prone, how he was the NXT champion when AEW was beating them in head-to-head ratings, which, is that accurate? I was thinking that when he said it, but Joe was the NXT champion for a second time, 2 times from, what was it, 2015 to when was he called up? Early 2017, which AEW wasn't around. When Joe became the NXT champion last year, they were already back to Tuesday nights as far as I'm aware. So I don't think that's particularly accurate. I don't think those timelines add up. But why let the facts and truth get in the way of a good rap, right? He also pointed out about him being X Division and all that kind of stuff. So it was, the Max Caster raps are always very fun. Now, Joe, of course, made his Ring of Honor return at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor 15 this past Friday. Khan announced after the show that Joe is All Elite. Khan, of course, is the Ring of Honor owner as well, and has confirmed that Joe is signed to compete in both AEW and Ring of Honor. So I thought the match was fine. It was shorter than I thought it was going to be. It must be said. I thought we were going to see more of a back and forth kind of bout, and we didn't really see that. It was largely Joe dominating, and I kind of was thinking this when he came out. We just really haven't seen Joe wrestle in a really long time. Like, we saw Joe wrestle against Karrion Kross at NXT TakeOver last year, where he won the NXT Championship, and that was his first match in 18 months or something like that. So that was last summer. We're looking at Joe's second match in maybe 2 years. I mean, it was kind of surreal that was just back and happening. Now, he did mention in the Ring of Honor media scrum on Friday that, you know, part of his time outside of the ring, of course, due to injuries, but it was by design. He didn't want to rush back after suffering 2 concussions. When it came to him dropping the NXT Championship last year, it was just because he tested positive for COVID. It wasn't anything to do with injuries. He just tested positive for COVID, and I think they always had the plans to go to NXT 2.0, and it was just an easy way for him to drop the championship, frankly. So it was great to see Joe back in the ring. He's going to be in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, which is exciting. As to will he win it, I would suspect he gets quite far into it. Obviously, they did an angle after the match where Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt were on the big screen, and they spoke about showing up next week and thanking their mentor and all that kind of stuff. So they're continuing that angle that was started at Ring of Honor last Friday. It's going to be interesting to see how much time he spends in either company, because at the moment, I spoke about this when we spoke about Ring of Honor the day after on Saturday, that for right now, all of these Ring of Honor storylines have to exist on AEW television. Once we get confirmed details about where Ring of Honor is going to live in terms of its weekly television, then a storyline like this would probably exist on Ring of Honor. But as of right now, Ring of Honor, we don't know what the status is with it, really. We know that the television show is coming. We don't know when. We don't know where. So as of right now, Joe's Ring of Honor commitments have to kind of happen in AEW. So it's going to be fascinating. I don't know if Joe will necessarily win the tournament. I have a feeling that maybe Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt will probably cost him at some point, so he won't win the tournament. As to who wins it, we don't even know who's fully in the bracket, so it's very difficult to say right now. But speaking of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, we have another entrant in the female side of things. Hikaru Shida won her match against Julia Hart and confirmed her place in the tournament. She joins Toni Storm, who won the first qualifying match against the Bunny last week on Dynamite, and Jamie Hayter, who defeated Sky Blue in the qualifying match on last Friday's Rampage. Now, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I really do, because Serena Deeb also kind of got involved. The two rivals almost came to blows after Shida's victory last night, as Serena Deeb surprised her from behind with a steel chair. Instead of getting attacked, Shida caught Deeb in the act and put her kendo stick up to defend her. This seemed to thwart the professor of AEW for the time being. You know, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we get a final that's Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida. I mean, this story's been going for ages, so there's got to be a plan involved, or is this just going to be a thing that they're constantly always rivals? I have no idea. I think Serena Deeb's a great person to win the first Owen Hart Women's Tournament, because from what I understand, and certainly the way that this is being presented, I get the impression that this is going to be AEW's version of the King of the Ring or the Queen of the Ring tournament for the females. So what better person than Serena Deeb to win that? I think she's the perfect person to win that tournament. They wanted to call it the King of Hearts tournament as well. They tried to trademark that. That was, of course, Owen Hart's name, but they couldn't because WWE still owned the trademark. So I think that's the direction that they want to go in for this tournament, and I think Serena Deeb would be a perfect person. I really do. Maybe we'll get to a final of Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb. We'll have to wait and see. The first title defense for AEW Women's World Champion Thunder Rosa has been announced. It was announced last night on AEW Dynamite that Thunder Rosa will put her newly acquired AEW Women's World Championship on the line against Nyla Rose. The two will go one-on-one at the upcoming Battle of the Bouts AEW special that will be taped on April 15. Rosa and Nyla Rose, a lot of roses there, have been feuding ever since Thunder Rosa came out for a championship celebration on a recent episode of Dynamite. She was quickly interrupted by Nyla Rose's manager, Vicky Guerrero, and then laid out by the Native Beast. As I mentioned, Battle of the Bouts 2 will be taped on Friday, April 15 at the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, Texas. Before or after a live edition of AEW Rampage on TNT, we'll talk about that episode of Rampage as well. So, I mean, Thunder Rose is going to win, certainly. I would be lying if I said I was absolutely buzzing for this match. I really could care less, honestly, and that's no slight against Nyla Rose or anything like that, but yeah, I suppose this is just, that's what happens when you win a championship, especially when you win a championship and you win it off someone that's held the belt for so long, like Britt Baker did. You need to have that feud that just gets a title defense under your belt. They did it with Hangman Page and Lance Archer. You know, just get the reign under your belt, get the wheels going, and then you can move on to bigger and better things. So Thunder Rose is going to retain. I would suspect it's just a feud for this special. Like, they need to have title matches because that's the show. It's Battle of the Bouts. So that would be the situation there. But Thunder Rose is not dropping the AEW Women's World Championship. Certainly not to Nyla Rose. I would suspect that Thunder Rose is going to have a long championship reign, at the very least until... I mean, I think she retains at Double or Nothing. The earliest she could drop it would maybe be All Out. And we'll have to wait and see with that one. Speaking of championship matches, though, the next AEW World Championship match has been announced. Last night's episode of AEW Dynamite opened up with a first-time ever singles match between Hangman Page, with Adam Cole and Christian Cage. The final moments of the bout saw Cole pull out the victory using the final boom, running knees to secure the 1-2-3. After the match, a brawl between AEW Tag Team Champions Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Red Dragon erupted as they exited the arena. Hangman Page came out to confront Adam Cole. Hangman said that he has no intentions of fighting, or Adam Cole rather. There's so many Adams in this. Adam Cole explained he had no intentions of fighting Hangman until the world title is on the line, something he feels like he has earned. Page accepted the challenge without any hesitation, but pointed out it won't be a traditional singles match this time. The two men will compete in an AEW World Championship match on April 15, 2022 during a live episode of AEW Rampage. Since that episode will be airing live in Texas, the stipulation Hangman chose was a Texas death match. That's not going to be the first Texas death match that Hangman Page has defended the World Championship in, right? He defeated Lance Archer in a Texas death match, so it's not going to be the first one. It was always going to this. I never thought that this feud between Hangman Page and Adam Cole was going to continue all the way to Double or Nothing, because that's just not how AEW does business. They usually, if they continue a feud after a pay-per-view, it basically means we've got a TV special, or we've got a special episode of Dynamite or Rampage or whatever that we're going to do and want you to defend the title there. Hangman Page is also going to beat Adam Cole. I would be shocked. I would be stunned if Adam Cole won the championship on an episode of Rampage. I mean, credit to AEW. I mean, we've been saying several times, haven't we, that Rampage, whilst most weeks it's a good show, it's not really noteworthy. If you miss it, you don't miss out on much. It's the B show. They've tried initially to market it as an equivalent to Dynamite, but it's not because of the time slot and because of the matches that are on it. You know, a World Championship match, they'll hope, especially with a live episode as well, they'll hope that boosts the ratings, but frankly, it's still not going to be close to Dynamite in terms of the ratings. Even if it's a live show of a World Championship main event, it's just not. I think this closes the chapter on the Hangman-Adam Cole feud. And then we move on to whoever the next challenger is going to be. Logic would suggest it's going to be CM Punk. Punk wasn't on Dynamite last night, but I think that's the direction that they're going in. Of course, maybe Adam Cole does win, and it's going to be Adam Cole versus CM Punk. But I think we're probably going to be moving towards Hangman Page versus CM Punk. Again, for me, it makes a lot of sense that Punk would win the World Championship, because I do think Punk's going to win the World Championship, but it would make sense that Punk wins the World Championship in Chicago or All Out, unless they're thinking of Punk winning it at Double or Nothing and then dropping the championship at All Out in Chicago to maybe MJF. Maybe they revisit that feud. I'm not sure. So I think it'll be a good match, but I don't think Adam Cole wins the championship. I do want to say, though, as well, because I don't have a graphic for it, the main event with FTR versus the Young Bucks, absolutely fantastic. FTR just on a roll. I mean, they've got great chemistry with the Young Bucks anyway, but that match for the AAA and Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships was just tremendous. And they're, You know, they say a lot of the times they're the best tag team in the world, and at the moment they're delivering. Are they the best tag team in the world? I'll leave that for you to decide in the comment section below, but it was an absolutely fantastic match. Speaking of tag teams, we have a couple of matches announced for next week. One being an AEW Tag Team Championship match for Jurassic Express. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus will put the titles on the line against Red Dragon in what appears to be the main event of next week's show. We'll also see the next chapter in the heated feud between the Jericho Appreciation Society and Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. A trios match will see the two factions collide as Eddie, Santana, and Ortiz will face Jericho, Hager, and Daniel Garcia. I think we might see a tag team title change next week. I really do. And that's just kind of why I just hesitate slightly when I say about Hangman and the World Championship, because they did the thing a couple of weeks ago when they stole all of the bouts and you had what they called the Undisputed Elite holding all the bouts. And I think Red Dragon win. I really think they probably will win next week. You know, they won the championships back in January. It's been about 4 months. It's around the right time when it comes to AEW. Their title reigns are slightly longer, so it would be, I suppose, somewhat on the short side. But I'm kind of thinking we might see a tag team title change next week. And if they do, maybe that does lean into Adam Cole winning the World Championship. If they did a title change on Rampage, it's bold. It's a bold move, and would certainly give a reason for people to tune into the show. Speaking of Rampage, matches have been announced for Friday's episode, which is actually a pretty strong show. The main event will see new Ring of Honor Pure Champion Wheeler Yuta going one-on-one with Blackpool Combat Club's Jon Moxley. Now, Mox's teammate Bryan Danielson will also be in action, where he faces another member of the Best Friend stable, Trent Beretta. It will be interesting to see if Yuta or Trent showcase enough intensity and aggression to be considered for the growing Blackpool Combat Club. I get the impression an angle is coming because they did the whole backstage segment where the dissension continues between the Best Friends stable, with Chuck Taylor saying, I trained you, I bought your gear, and all this kind of stuff. And Trent comes in and says, well, I never wanted you, and I think you should be out of the stable, and all that kind of stuff. The gimmick, well, the storyline rather, is at the moment that Wheeler Yuta wants to be in the club. He wants to be in the Blackpool Combat Club, and William Regal's impressed, and they've been impressed by his fights, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jon Moxley beats him. If that's the main event, I could see what this is maybe what happens. Depends what the main event is, because they format it slightly differently, Rampage. But I could maybe see an angle, and again, spoilers are out there, and I haven't read them. But maybe the angle would be that the opening match of the show, Bryan Danielson beats Trent. The closing moments of the show, you have Jon Moxley beat Wheeler Yuta. A brawl happens because it's AEW. A brawl happens after every match. They come out, and then that's when Wheeler Yuta decides to side with Blackpool Combat Club. But that would be kind of heelish, I suppose, and they're not really heels, they're just kind of badasses, so I'm not sure what will happen with that. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestle News 365, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.